My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously, I'll
What about
say,
your arm?
a little bit more complicated. There are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed, but back next to the sink. I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment. So, yeah.
This girl named Virginia McCullough brutally killed her parents and lived in the home with her parents' bodies hidden away. Before delving deep into the timeline of crime, take a short look at the background life of Virginia. Virginia McCullough was born sometime around 1988 and lived in Great Baddow, England, which is just southwest of Chelmsford. She was raised by her father John, a retired business studies lecturer, and her mother Lois. Virginia was the youngest of 5 daughters. Eventually, all her sisters moved out of the family home, but Virginia continued to live with her parents rent-free. Virginia did not generate any regular income through employment, but lied to her parents and said that she did. She told her parents that she was studying to be an artist and that her future career would grant her financial success. By 2019, both her parents had several health issues. Her 70-year-old father, John, had type 2 diabetes, glaucoma, and hypertension. Her 71-year-old mother, Lois, had agoraphobia, anxiety, and symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder. In exchange for taking care of her parents' financial dealings, her father gave her some money. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On the 19th of June 2019, Virginia McCullough poisoned her 70-year-old father with prescription medication that she crushed and put into his alcoholic drinks. She then hid his body in a makeshift tomb covered with blankets and paintings. A day later, on the 20th of June 2019, she beat her 71-year-old mother with a hammer and fatally stabbed her. Virginia then stashed her mother's body behind sleeping bags and a duvet in an upstairs wardrobe. Conveniently for her, the country was about to enter enforced lockdowns due to COVID-19. So Virginia was easily able to conceal their bodies within the home at Pump Hill in Great Baddow. Over the next 4 years, she continued to live at the address, telling lie after lie to cover her tracks and avoid raising suspicion. But in 2023, her lies eventually caught up with her, and Virginia McCullough was arrested and charged with her parents' murder.
I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment.
Before murdering her parents, Virginia had been living rent-free and taking advantage of their good hearts. In their minds, she was working hard to become an artist, but in reality, she was deep in debt and racking up large charges on her parents' credit cards. She forged letters to trick them into thinking they had lost money through scams when, in reality, she was taking their money. After cruelly murdering her parents, she continued to accumulate large debts on their credit cards and spent their pensions. Over the next 4 years, she lived in the home with her parents' bodies hidden away, spending a total of almost £150,000. She cancelled family arrangements and meetups frequently, telling doctors and relatives that her parents were unwell, on holiday, or away on lengthy trips. Virginia made 185 calls to the GP surgery, including calls in which she pretended to be her mother. Virginia sent texts using her dead mother's phone to her siblings and sent gift cards to them in Lois's name. She also refused all invitations from family to catch up or meet. However, there were a few moments when people noticed some strange behavior coming from Virginia. One day, a man named Alan Thompson rented a television to the couple. When Virginia called him to abruptly cancel the rental on her parents' behalf, Alan's staff arrived at the home to pick up the television. Virginia told them they could not enter the property and that the television was already prepared by the front door. Paul Hastings, a greengrocer at the shop near their home, was concerned when Lois and John stopped coming to his store. However, Virginia then told him that her parents were no longer living in the area. Members of the community noted that Virginia acted strangely during those 4 years, mentioning that she would be seen in a shop 4 times a day before disappearing for the next fortnight. Virginia also pretended to be pregnant, creating a fake bump under her clothing. Her neighbor claimed that Virginia had a dark sense of humor and that her curtains were always drawn. Finally, in September 2023, the physician for Virginia's parents called the police, concerned that the appointments for John and Lois had been repeatedly cancelled. The physician had not seen the couple for years. The GP informed Essex County Council's safeguarding team about his concerns, and this was subsequently referred to the police. A missing person investigation was initially launched, and Virginia lied to the officers, claiming that her parents were traveling and would be returning in October 2023. Due to the officer's suspicions, the case was deemed a murder inquiry, and the police executed a warrant to enter and search the family home. On September 15th, the police raided Virginia's home. Body camera video showed officers entering the residence from the front and the rear door. Virginia was standing in a hallway near the front door with her hands up. After being handcuffed, Virginia told the police that she wanted to tell them something about what was upstairs on the top floor.
It's 12:12. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder against Jonathan McCullough and Lois McCullough. Okay? You don't have to say anything, but it may harm defence if you do not mention or in question so such for anything to do so with the evidence. Okay? Alright, your arrest is necessary for a prompt and effective.
Is there anything in the pocket we should know about?
Yes, there
Where?
is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
Can we go in there for a second, just so I can tell you something about what's in there?
Yeah.
And then,
I want to tell us
the only
something.
reason I said I need to tell you something about what's upstairs on the top floor as well.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
She confessed to murdering both her father and her mother. Virginia directed officers to where her father's body was located.
My dad's body's in there.
When an officer asked about her mother, Virginia responded, "A little bit more complicated."
A little bit more complicated.
Virginia explained how her mother's body was in a closet in an upstairs bedroom.
Okay.
That's why I said, can I go upstairs and show
Right,
you?
can you?
Okay, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yeah.
It's behind the bed at the back next to the sink. That's the second one.
Referring to her arrest, she stated that she knew this would come eventually and that it was proper that she serve her punishment.
I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment.
Virginia told one officer, "Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy."
Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
After giving a full account of what had happened, the police had her sign a statement confirming that it was all true, which she willingly did.
I've written down there here now, I've just read out to you. Are you happy to sign that, to say that's a true account?
Yeah.
Finally, she told them where a bank card was, admitting that she had spent a lot of her parents' money over the past few years.
There's a card in there, card one money. That's a bank card where there's a lot of transactions that have taken place over the last few years.
Virginia was then taken to the police station where she told them about a kitchen knife, which she described as the murder weapon, and a hammer, which she said would still have blood on it.
So, murder weapon is upstairs in the toilet room, kitchen knife. But every bit helps. You will find forensically it's helpful. There's a hammer. I know, but I'm trying to help so you find everything. It's in the middle underneath the stairs. It will still have blood on it. It's rusted, but it will still have blood traces on it.
Prosecutors applied for a whole life order to be imposed on her, rather than granting a minimum jail term as part of a life sentence. The prosecuting counsel said, "These were clearly premeditated killings. There was a plan B if plan A didn't work. This is a case of exceptionally high seriousness." She gave her father a cocktail of her prescription drugs, crushed into alcoholic drinks that she gave him. She left him to die in his bedroom at the house and went to bed. She sedated her mother with a less strong cocktail. They went on to say that Virginia fatally attacked her mother the following morning. She put on a pair of gloves, struck her with a hammer, and stabbed her 8 times. They said this was the culmination of thoughts and planning, which began in March 2019. Throughout her sentencing, Virginia stared at the floor, emotionless. It was only when the court listened back to her original interview with the police that she began to cry. In the police interview, she told the officers, "She looked so innocent. She was just sat there listening to the radio. I did go in 3 times to build up some gumption, but I knew I had to get it done and couldn't hesitate. She was just staring at me in disbelief," she said. Afterwards, she held her mother's hand and apologized. The prosecution went on to say the defendant was actively engaged in fraud and deception on her parents before the killings. The court heard how she ran up large debts on credit cards in her parents' names, and after their deaths, she continued to spend their pensions, a total of $135,900 charged to their credit cards. Virginia lied about having a job, making her parents believe that she was not being paid for it. In an email to a friend, her mother Lois wrote, "I do hope Jen gets her full salary. Keep your fingers crossed for us." Virginia was the youngest of John and Lois's 5 children, and her siblings saw her as socially awkward and a compulsive liar. statements from her siblings were read to the court. One sibling wrote, "Your lies about our parents' actions and their whereabouts made it seem as if they didn't value seeing us. You have left a hole in my heart forever, and a piece of me died with them the day you took them from us." Another wrote, "To me, this situation is quite literally a living nightmare from which I will never wake up. The haunting thoughts of whether my parents suffered if they were taunted." Another sibling said they felt sick to their core every day, adding, "We have been cruelly robbed of more loving memories and bonds with our mom and dad for years to come. How dare Virginia rob us of that life? So many lies have been told to cover the horrific truth that she had murdered our loving mom and dad." Lois's brother said, "Virginia has spread many lies and stories to cover her murders. It undermines my faith in humanity. I still have letters sent to me. I know now some of the contact with what I believed to be Lois and John was not them. Some moments and conversations I believed I was having were not true. There are precious times with Lois and John I will miss out on because of the wicked act of their own daughter. Virginia is dangerous, and my biggest fear is she will plan something, as she is manipulative and now has a lot of time to plan." The defense, on the other hand, started by saying, "Nothing I say is intended to detract from the loss of dear parents, grandparents, and siblings. This is not a case where a whole life order is necessary or justified." Defense attorney Christine Agnew KC told the court that Virginia wanted them to know that she understood she must be punished for what she had done. The defense claimed that Virginia was not using her autism as an excuse for her actions, but that it did in some way explain them. Christine Agnew KC stated that Virginia experienced paranoia and was self-harming at times while living at her parents' house. Agnew also mentioned that Virginia recognized she had hurt and damaged her siblings to such an extent that they were unlikely to recover. Christine added that Virginia had been cooperative, noting that she made full admissions to the offenses from the moment police came to her front door. When sentencing took place on the 11th of October 2024, Virginia was told to stand, and she showed no emotion. Judge Christopher Morgan stated that he was sure the offenses involved a substantial degree of both premeditation and planning, adding that she spun and maintained an elaborate, extensive, and enduring web of deceit for more than 4 years. He noted that for 3 months, Virginia accumulated a large amount of prescription drugs, and in May 2019, she bought a knife as well as implements to crush and separate tablets. The judge said these were considered acts of aggression following months of thought and planning. "You drugged your father's drink 2 days before the murders to use him as a guinea pig. You had a primary plan to use the drugs for their deaths, and you had a backup plan to use weapons if the primary plan failed. You think more of one than you do of humanity. Your parents were entitled to feel safe in their beds and their own homes. They were entitled to feel safe with their own daughter. Her last conscious moment was the realization that you, her daughter, had launched a murderous attack on her." As he handed down the sentence, he said, "There is a single sentence that can be passed upon you in these circumstances. Consideration, however, has to be given to the minimum term." He sentenced Virginia to life with a minimum term of 36 years. Mr. Justice Johnson stated that she would not serve a whole life order, citing her guilty pleas and admissions to the police as influencing his decision. Mr. Justice Johnson noted that having served some time on remand, she had 34 years and 341 days until she could be considered for release as part of her life sentence for murder. Following the sentencing outside the courtroom, Detective Superintendent Rob Kirby of Essex Police said,
"Virginia McCullough murdered her parents in cold blood. Her actions were considered meticulous and carried out in such a way as to conceal what she had done for as long as possible. These were the actions of someone who had taken time to plan and carry out the murder of her parents in the interests of self-preservation and personal gain, before living within meters of the bodies of her 2 victims for a number of years. Throughout the course of our investigation, we have built a picture of the vast levels of deceit, betrayal and fraud that she was engaged in. It was on a shocking and monumental scale. McCullough lied about almost every aspect of her life, maintaining a charade to deceive everyone close to her and clearly taking advantage of her parents' goodwill. She is an intelligent manipulator who chose to kill her parents callously without a thought for them or those who continue to suffer as a result of their loss. The details of this case shock and horrify even the most experienced of murder detectives, let alone members of the public. It therefore follows that the wider family of John and Lois understandably could never have guessed or anticipated that McCullough would be capable of undertaking these murders before committing herself to this level of deceit. They have been left utterly devastated by the circumstances of this case, and they continue to feel the loss of John and Lois each and every day. This process, from the finding of John and Lois's remains to the unravelling of McCullough's web of lies, has taken a huge toll on the wider family network. With this sentence, and with all that we have uncovered throughout our investigation, we hope they can now start to find a way forward with their lives. The family have continued to struggle with the intense media interest in this case, and I would repeat in the strongest possible terms their wish for their privacy to be respected as they continue to grieve their loss. Thank you.
John and Lois's family paid tribute to them in a statement and thanked the police for their work. They said, "We would like to say a huge thank you to Essex Police, and in particular, the Major Investigation Team, for their tireless work in trying to achieve the best possible justice for our beloved parents. We would also like to thank other specialist services for their invaluable contribution to this investigation, and to everyone who has supported our family over the last year. Our mom and dad are forever in our hearts and are loved and missed beyond any measure. Virginia's actions were cruel and selfish. She took advantage of her parents' kindness and love and brutally murdered them. She spread a web of lies that eventually caught up to her, and she truly got what she deserved, a life sentence. My heart goes out to the couple's friends and family, and I hope the sentencing gives them some sense of closure. As always, rest in peace, Lois and John McCullough. If you found this video informative, then give it a like and subscribe to our channel for upcoming content like this. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.